Hello everybody. This is Linda from North Central Texas. I've been in the yard. I harvested a big old bowl of greens. Every leaf that was big enough to cut, I cut it and brought it in, and I'm getting ready to cook it. First off, I gotta wash it off a little bit. I mean, I did check the plants real good when I brought them in. So I mean, they're pretty bug free. I just wanted to wash a little bit of the dust off of them if there is any. I harvested a rutabaga. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to throw it right in with everything else. It's just a little bitty one, but it might, it's a yellow turnip is what it is. But it might add a little bit of flavor to everything when I'm cooking this. Because I've got a few of the turnip leaves in this as well. I've got a few perpetual spinach in there. And I'm going to have that turnip in there. I harvested a couple of radishes, but they're mixed up in these greens right here. And I'm going to have to get the greens out to get a couple of radish. And they're not big ones, but I just happened to see them. I don't know how they kept from freezing last night.
When I started drinking warm water, my friends laughed at me. But when they saw how fast I was changing, they started doing it themselves.
I don't know how that came on, but we don't need talking right now. But I thought I'd show you how I'm going to do this batch. A little bit different than I did before. There's one of my little bitty radishes. This one wasn't even big enough to bring in, but I brought it in. I can put it right in a salad and not even have to cut it or anything. And I mean, I'm definitely not going to put it in my pot to cook with my greens. I'm just going to put it in here and I got this little one, and it's got roots on it, so I'm just scraping the roots off. It only got up to like 35 today. It's about time for it to start cooling off again. That's the good thing about when it gets cold weather, you don't have bugs and worms on your greens anymore. But your greens may not live too much longer either. I mean, sometimes they'll survive through the cold and the snow. Sometimes they won't. It just depends on what type of collard it is, what type of green it is, whether it'll survive through the cold months. And here's another one. I'm going to have to peel this one a little bit, I think. Because it looks kind of black. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just discolored from the dirt. The dirtiest thing that was in this pan was my radishes. I mean, my leaves were pretty clean. I'm going to let them drip right in this sink for a little bit. Now what I'm going to do is come over here and get my pot ready to put my greens in. I don't think this will go up any. Well, yeah, it will. Go up a little bit higher. Maybe you can see in the pot a little. Yeah, you can see in there. I think I'm going to switch back around though. I'm going to get this pan out of the way temporarily. Get my canner moved back over. Because I want to use this burner, I think. Yeah, I'm going to use this burner over here. That way you can see down in the pot a little bit better. I had dirt on the bottom of that bowl a little bit. Now, I've got, what did I do with it? Right over here. From those ham pieces we had the other day, I've got a few of the scraps left. And what I'm going to do is brown them in the bottom of this pressure pot with a little bit of olive oil, not much. I just don't want it to stick too bad. Yeah, there's just a couple of pieces, but I'm going to put all them little scraps in there. See all these little scraps of ham and fat? I'll put them right in there. I got the hiccups, y'all. I got to eat me a radish. Interesting. It's not very hot, but it is radish. It tastes just like a radish. I mean, I didn't think I expected it to taste like anything else, but I gotta fix me something to drink over here. Get me some ice. Oh, wrong ice tray. This one's hard. I like the one that just pops when you kind of twist it a little bit. Ice cubes come out a lot easier. Yeah, I'm just opening me a Coke bottle. We're supposed to get snow by Thursday, y'all, or Wednesday night. Because it's supposed to rain Wednesday night. And if it rains, we can't get anything but ice or snow. That's when that winter storm is going to hit. I mean, it's already got the temperatures down now. But it's going to be even worse Wednesday into Thursday, because Thursday it's not going to get above freezing day or night. So I'm just going to fry these ham bits, the fat, so that it gets crispy, almost like you would bacon. I had a peeling in the floor. But anytime you fry ham or bacon real crispy, it just brings out that good flavor in your ham and your bacon. It's a great seasoning for your greens. Because I'm not going to freeze these. I'm cooking these to eat. I'll have greens to eat the rest of the week. Well, I thought you could see in the pot. Now you can. You can see my ham pieces in there. Might want to turn it down just a tiny bit. That little bit of ham fat will cook just like bacon does. Now I'm going to add a little bit of water. I'm going to get that good and hot before I start adding my greens in there. So I could get the camera over that way a little bit, but it's all right where it's at, I guess. Now all I'm going to do, since these leaves are not that big, I'm just going to break them in half. Just like that. Break the big ones in half and throw them in. Because I usually chop up my greens anyway. I have a little chopper that I chop them up with. The little ones I don't even chop up. I mean, the little ones I don't break in half. I just cook them that way. In fact, you don't even have to break them in half. You can put them in there just like that. I want the water to get boiling because it'll start breaking these greens down a little bit. But that's just enough seasoning with that little bit of ham in there for these greens, because you know greens will cook down. I love being able to cook them in the pressure pot because they come out so tender. I cook them under pressure for about an hour. I'd be here probably boiling them all day if I tried to just boil them in a regular pot. I figured that'd be just about a pot full. Now my tree collards are loving this weather. It didn't even faze them a bit. And I'm just throwing those pieces of turnip in there just for flavor. Because I've only got the one. That's all I salvaged out of the garden. There was a couple more, but they were even smaller than that, so I didn't get them. I just left them. But, you know, by the end of the week, the greens are going to be so cold hurt and wilted down and frozen that they wouldn't have been fit to gather. So I just went around the whole garden and gathered all the leaves that I could possibly find of my greens. Perpetual spinach, kale, cabbages, collards, all of it. Turnip tops. And it's like a mixed green here. It's mostly collards, but tree collards. Now I want that to get to the boiling point. And it takes it a few minutes because those greens are cold. They've been in the freezing cold temperatures outside. But I'm going to eat me a mess of greens for dinner tonight. But I wanted y'all to see, you can season them up with ham, with bacon. You can throw your turnips in there, your rutabagas if you want. You can chop them all up together and eat them like that. And they're really good with your turnip roots, your maybe some small rutabagas that you've got in the garden. Just chop them up and throw them in there and cook them all together. And then when you get the greens done, just take them out, drain off the juice, leave it in the pot, and then put your greens in a bowl that you can use a hand chopper and just chop them up. This is my chopper right here. I've used that to chop collard greens, mustard greens, you name it, ever since I've started cooking way back when. And that's what I'll use this time. And I'll probably make just a little bit of dumplings, cornbread dumplings to go in the broth if there's enough broth left. Just enough to eat for dinner tonight. I don't want to make a great big old bunch of them because I'm not going to eat them all. So I know I'll eat the greens, not all at one time, but I'll have greens to eat at each meal for like a week or so. May need to put just a little bit more water in there. About not quite half. I don't put salt, pepper, anything like that in them. I never season them with that because you can get your greens too salty. They absorb every bit of that salt that you put in that water. So I don't season my greens at all other than with the ham, maybe the rutabaga roots, turnip roots. It gives them a real good flavor when you cook it together. That should be getting just about to. It is. I hear it down in there. So I'm going to put my lid on. I like to wet my gasket here. I just put a little bit of water in the lid just to go around the gasket and get it wet. Put my lid on, and then when it gets a little bit hotter, I'm going to put the weight on the top. And that hasn't dropped yet. But what I do is cook them for about an hour under pressure. Get this thing down where I can talk to y'all a minute. This is the weight for my big pot. It's a round disc, but it's pretty heavy. It has 5 pounds of pressure, 10 or 15 depending on which way you put it. I just put 5 pounds of pressure on my greens when I cook them. And now I'm just going to wait till it starts to jiggle a little bit. I'm going to turn the burner down. Because you just want it to jiggle once or twice a minute. If it starts jiggling steadily, you got too much pressure on it. And if it's steadily jiggling, you run the risk of blowing your little gasket right there. I've done that years ago. I was fixing pinto beans and my pot was going like crazy. The little thing at the top was just jiggling away nonstop. All of a sudden, the little spout right there blew out. I had a spout of bean juice going to the ceiling, y'all. You don't want that to happen. I mean, I know there's not much water in these collards, maybe about 1/4 of a pot. But I'll tell you what, if you get it hot enough to shoot that little red spout out, that safety valve, it'll spray every bit of that water that's in those greens right to the ceiling. And it's scalding hot water too. You'll get burnt. So let it come to jiggling, turn your burner down. Make sure it just jiggles once in a while. Like I said, about once or twice, maybe 3 times a minute. 1 minute, that's 60 seconds, y'all. So it'll jiggle and it'll stop for a bit. And then it'll jiggle again and it will stop. And it'll do that maybe 2 or 3 times every minute. Any more than that, you've got too much pressure on it and you're going to blow your gasket and you're going to ruin your pot of greens, and you're going to have, you'll ruin your kitchen. You're going to spend hours cleaning your kitchen up when you do that. So I'm going to let these cook. I'm going to get it to jiggling and cook them for about an hour, and I'll bring you back. Well, I'm back, y'all, and I'm getting ready to take the lid off of my pot. Mine has a safety latch, so you have to run a knife under it to undo the latch. But it's cooked. And now what I need to do is take them out and chop them up. And I might chop up a few of them at a time because they're pretty hot and I don't want to burn my hand. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to chop up a few of them at a time because it only goes down so far with that chopper before you run out of space and it will burn your hand, the top of your hand. And I'm chopping the turnip root and everything all up together. I'm going to use this slotted spoon to try to get them out with the least amount of the liquid. Because I don't want all that liquid in my greens. I want it in the pot for my dumplings. Bowl may not even be big enough for them. I'm chopping the ham and everything up in it. Maybe I can bring you over here a little closer so you can see more about what I'm doing here. I always forget to move the camera. But I've got my ham and everything chopped up in there. My turnip. You can see I'm just filling the spoon up and squeezing it against the bowl to get as much of the liquid out in the bowl as I can, because I don't want it in my greens. I'm always afraid I'm going to break my spoon because I put a lot of pressure on it. I should get the metal spoon, really. This is the way all my relatives in North Carolina fix their greens. And that's the way I fix them. You see the bits and pieces of the turnip, the bits and pieces of the ham. And remember, that was just a little bit of ham scraps. And now I'm going to move this back over here. Maybe raise it up a tiny bit. And I'm going to make a few little dumplings, I think. I want that sugar. I got to find my... Here's my cornmeal. Get my flour. Now I got to get me a bowl to mix my cornmeal in. Because I don't want to mix too much. Oh, let's see. There it is. I needed my... I've got cornmeal mix here. And I'm just going to put about not even a half a cup. Like I said, I don't want to mix too much. Trying to get about 1/3 of a cup. There we go, 1/3 of a cup of the cornmeal mix. Got some self-rising flour, and I'm going to get, let's see if I can dip it in here. About 1/3 of a cup of that. And this is going to be more than I'm going to eat. Oh, I want to pour this green juice back in the thing. We're going to get it back to a boil. Mix that up good. And I always put egg in my dumplings. Some people don't, but I always do. And then I either put milk or water. In this case, I'm just going to use water, because that egg is almost enough to mix it up. Now you don't have to do this step. This is something I just like to do. I just like to put a little bit of sugar in my dumplings to sweeten them up a little bit. Just a tiny bit. They taste a lot better if you've got heavy cream to put in them, or milk, but water is just as good. I mean, they make a good dumpling. Now I'm getting this to boiling. As soon as it's boiling, I'm going to put my dumplings in. Move that just a tiny bit back. But see, there's my whole bowl of greens. I'll have greens to eat for each meal for a week or more. Can't believe it got that cool. I don't want to add more water to this because it weakens it down a little bit, the broth. I mean, I've got that little bit in the bottom of the jar I'm going to put in there. That's not that much. And I may want to add a little bit more flour because I added a little bit too much water in there. I don't want them too soupy. I want them kind of not solid, but you can see I mixed a little bit more flour in my cornmeal mixture. Probably a good tablespoon. Because I don't want them too watery to put in the liquid, the broth, to cook them. That'll probably do it. They're starting to boil. So now I'm just going to drop my dumplings in by the spoonful. See how much I'm getting on there. But when you fix them in broth like this, it's just like having grease. You got to have your broth hot to the boiling point, so it starts cooking them basically as soon as you put them in there, and they don't end up falling apart on you. I'm going to move the camera just a tiny bit. Get it on this other side. Oop. There now. I dropped some cornmeal on the stove, so I got to get that up. It'll cook on the stove and it'll be tremendously hard to get up. Now you don't want to stir them. When it gets to that point, I'm not going to lock the lid down, but I'm going to put the lid on. I don't want them boiling too much, too hard. But I'm going to cover them over and let them cook for a few minutes. I'll check them, let them cook for a little bit more, and then check them. You don't want to stir them. We don't usually stir dumplings or pastry, either one, because it has a tendency to make it come apart. I'm just washing up my few bowls here, because I'm going to use that little bowl to put my dumplings in, I think. What it does when you cover them like that is all that steam and the water that tries to evaporate hits the top of the lid, and it puts it down on the top of your dumplings, and it basically cooks the top just like that. Now I've got this bowl that I can put my dumplings in, and I don't think it's going to be big enough. I may want to put my greens in the other bowl. But it usually takes about 20 minutes for your dumplings to cook. Just like pastry, when you fix like chicken and pastry. You don't want to stir that either because it'll cause it to break apart. And what you can do at this point, when you see that the top of them are cooked a little bit, you can flip them over. Notice I'm not stirring them, I'm just flipping. The ones that are started to cook on the top, if they haven't started to cook on the top, you may not be able to flip them. But it looks like all of those had started to cook. And we're going to cover them again. I mean, that's a pretty important step, is not to stir them. Wait till they get kind of cooked and you see that they're drying on the top. That means they're cooking on the top, and then you can flip them over. Flip them upside down. And it takes usually about 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes to cook them. So your dough is not raw inside. I would dunk them under the water, but it's not deep enough. But you can flip them back over again. I didn't intend to make that many dumplings. I really didn't. But it's kind of hard to cut the recipe down too small, especially when you're putting an egg in it. Covering them not only helps cook the top from the top down, but it keeps a lot of your liquid from leaving the pot. I mean, you want some of your liquid left in there. I'm sorry, I know you can't see through the lid, but you have to leave the lid on it. It's necessary. I'm going to turn that down a little bit. I don't want it quite boiling that much. Even that much is too much. Basically, turn it down as low as you can get it and leave the lid on it for a few minutes. Let it cook with the heat and the steam that's in there and with the little bit that's coming up from the low heat. Just a couple of minutes and they'll be in there for like 15 minutes. Yeah, they're still cooking. They're just not at the boiling point right now. But they're still cooking. I could have actually made them a little smaller. Another minute. Take one of them out. Here's my dumpling, y'all. My dumplings. I'm going to get some of my greens. And I'm going to get some of this liquid after I chop my dumpling up a little bit. I like to chop my dumpling up. See, it's all cooked inside. I like to chop it up and then get some of my broth and put on my dumpling. That's good right there. Ooh, but it's hot. It is hot, 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 y'all. Terribly hot. And I don't like the lighting from this side. Let's get it back over on this side. See the difference in the light? But there is my dumplings and my greens. Don't that look inviting? If you're used to eating greens with dumplings, yeah, this is inviting. I got to taste my dumpling. Dear Lord, bless this food I'm about to eat. Amen. Y'all take a bite of my dumpling. There's just enough of that broth in there to make those dumplings so good. And if I'd have had some fat back to fry and put a little bit of fat back grease in there, it would have been even better. Y'all, that's good. And greens are good for you. That little bit of ham in there and that little bit of turnip cut up in there. That's good eating. Y'all, fix you some greens and some dumplings. And you know what? I thought I had some, but maybe I don't. I thought I had a little bit of fat back, not fat back, but bacon grease. This is even better, y'all. This is a little bit of broth out of my pork ribs that I cooked the other day. All that stuff that was in the bottom of the pan. This is going to be real good in here. It's just basically pork bouillon, cold. Turn my burner back on high. Not on high, but enough to heat up this little bit of bouillon. I wish I'd have thought about it earlier. But that'll make those dumplings even better. That's better than using the fat back. I've got pork broth from my ribs that I cooked. And that goes hand in hand with your ham, so that'll be good right there. And I'm just turning my dumplings over in the pan, just coating them good with that juice and stuff. And I'm going to put a little bit because remember that grease, it does, I mean the bouillon does not have the barbecue sauce on it yet. It just has the drippings from the seasoning on the barbecue or the pork ribs and the seasonings, and that was it. And that little bit of grease, which was not a lot. It was mostly broth from the pork. Oh yeah. That is so much better. Just that little bit. I knew I saved it for some reason. Actually, I was going to put it in soup, but this is even better. Y'all. Try my dumpling with a little bit of ham on the end. Got ham chopped up in there. And that little bit of broth that I mixed in with the bouillon, I mean the broth from the greens. Oh, it's so good. Y'all, that is pure Southern right there. Make you some greens and dumplings. I think you'll like them. This is my dinner. I'll save the rest for another day. And I don't think that's going to be big enough. I think, though, I might be able to get these greens in this other bowl. Flatten them down good. And get the lid on it and put the dumplings in this one. Because I want to get the dumplings all in one bowl. Those greens are good. So do like I did. If you only got one turnip, cut it up and put it in there. Yep, I guessed just about right. Look at that. With that little bit I took out to eat, that's going to be perfect to put the lid on. And I'm going to get these other ones right here in this. I mean, that's enough dumplings for 2 people. 2 or 3 people. Maybe even 4 people if you only had maybe 2 dumplings a piece. And they're pretty big, so. And now what I'm going to do is just basically pour my stuff right from my dumplings right in my pan. I mean my bowl. Because I want that on there with them when I serve them, when I go to eat them. I want them covered in that broth. And that little bit of drippings from the pork. I'm just cleaning the top of the bowl, y'all. I'm gonna get this down. Whoops. I almost turned it off. There you go. My greens and dumplings. Don't they look good? And there's what I got in my plate that I got to eat. And that's not a problem. I'm going to devour that. But there you go. Greens and dumplings. Fix you some. You'll love them. And I'll see you on my next one. Love y'all. Bye now.